All right, our division previews here around Major League Baseball continuing now on the Sweat. We're focusing on the AL East right now. A couple key additions. Well, more than a couple key additions. Some of the biggest offseason additions on your screen. Really, the Blue Jays just bulking up. Going to be a bullying bluebird over the summer. Yankees adding Josh Donaldson. The Red Sox bringing in Mr. Trevor Story out from the West. And Mr. Rich Hill returning home. His, fourth or fifth stint with his hometown team. Our panel this morning, what's up? DraftKings contributor Nick Friar, Rotowire's Erik Halterman. Good to see you guys. Let's preview this AL East for the 2022 Major League Baseball season. All right, Nick, give me a player future here that really jumps out to you for someone in this division right now.
Yeah, I know, at this time of year, when we're talking about futures, you want to go and try and bet the over because something to look forward to throughout the course of the season, see a guy chase something down. But when we're looking at the AL East division, there's actually an under on a player future that jumps out to me, and that's Nathan Eovaldi's strikeouts prop. It's at 185.5 right now. He got 195 last season, 32 games, 182 innings pitched. Great season and everything. Don't get me wrong, all-star season and everything. I still think he's going to do well for the Red Sox this year. But that's the first time, Emerson, that he has eclipsed the 150 strikeout mark in his Major League Baseball career. Innings sometimes are an issue for him. And I think when you look at what's going on with Chris Sale and looking at just the pitching staff as a whole, you need Eovaldi to be there for you the entire season. So I would think the Red Sox are going to try and manage his innings throughout the year, making this number a lot harder for him to hit.
All right, Erik, where are you looking here?
I like Giancarlo Stanton to hit over 30.5 homers. I don't think anybody doubts that he has 31 homer power if he stays healthy. So this is a bet on Stanton's health. But it's, I think, a safer one than people might think. He hit 35 homers last season, but he wasn't healthy all year. He missed 23 games. He's hit 35 or more in 3 of the last 4 full seasons. And if you average all the projections over at Fangraphs, he only needs to play 121 games this season to hit 31 homers. So you are betting on health for a guy who doesn't always stay healthy, but it looks like all he really needs to do is stay healthy for 3/4 of the year. He could miss a full 41 games, and I think he still gets there. So I think this is safer than people might think.
Okay, now we can talk a little more hardware here too, guys. A couple guys from the AL East could bring home some of that. Let's see, Guerrero plus 450 to win MVP. Garrett Cole, the favorite to win the Cy Young, plus 425. Maybe we see this rookie, Adley Rutschman, in Baltimore kind of light it up. Rookie of the Year honors, his odds plus 500. So is there a player from the AL East, Nick, that you like right now, his odds to take home some hardware?
Yeah, I think it's the first guy that you hit on, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. plus 450 to win MVP. I particularly don't like Garrett Cole to win the Cy Young after the way things went after the sticky stuff and everything for him last season. But with Guerrero, he finished second in the voting last year. He's got the lineup's gotten a little bit better as well. They're coming off a frustrating season where they didn't make the postseason, but they still played very well. Easily could have made it in any other year. And then, you look at the other 2 guys that are ahead of Vlad Jr. right now in the odds when it comes to MVP, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. We've seen it in the past where you have 2 MVP caliber guys, and they're going to steal votes from one another. Every year, you have some people saying that Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. He should win the MVP every year. I think it should be the best player in that given season. And just because Trout's the best player in baseball right now doesn't matter. Shohei Ohtani, though, now is kind of coming to that same conversation as Trout because he pitches so well. So I think that they're going to pull votes from one another, which should benefit Vladdy Jr. this year.
Yeah, look at that. Shohei, Trout, Vlad, and then a big drop off to Aaron Judge at plus 1,600 in that department there to win AL MVP. Erik, is there a guy who stands out to you, someone whose odds you'd like to jump on right now?
First, quick note that definitely not Adley Rutschman because he's got a bit of an injury right now, and the way the incentives in the new CBA seem to be are that if you think your guy could win Rookie of the Year, call him up right away because he'll get a full year of service time if he finishes in the top 2 in voting. So even if you're trying to steal a year of free agency by keeping him down for 2 weeks, just bring him up right away. But if you're not going to bring him up right away, call him up late enough that he has no chance of winning Rookie of the Year so that you get that extra year of service time. And I'm pretty worried that may happen with Rutschman, so I'd avoid him even if I like the talent.
Yeah.
I think Nick was right on it with Vlad. I think he'll also have some of that narrative there in that he was very close last year, and voters sometimes like to say, well, it's close between Vlad and Ohtani again this year. We gave it to Ohtani last year. Let's give it to Vlad now. So I think he's correctly priced there. I don't hate Garrett Cole either, though. I think his second half wasn't quite as bad as some people think. He did struggle, I think, initially after the crackdown. But if you look at overall, especially his underlying numbers like strikeout and walk rate, were not much of a drop off. So I think both he and Vlad are correctly priced as top tier options.
Yeah, Adley's expecting to miss maybe 2-3 weeks with a triceps strain rather. So speaking of the Orioles, 4 of the 5 teams really have odds indicating that they are likely to make the playoffs. So sorry about that, Orioles fans. But is it possible here, Erik, that Yankees, Rays, Jays, and Sox all make the playoffs this season? We do have an expanded postseason now, 12 teams total.
It's absolutely possible. I think if you were to ask me who are the 6 best teams in the American League, I would include all 4 of those, plus the White Sox and the Astros. The thing is, for all 4 of the AL East teams to make it, you'd have to have things not go wrong for any of them. And I think the odds are, when you're talking about 4 total teams, things are going to go wrong for somebody. And there is a tier of pretty decent contenders in the Twins, Mariners, and maybe Angels. I would expect one of those teams to pass whichever the AL East teams gets hit hardest by the injury luck or bad luck in general, especially because the AL East teams are going to beat each other up. So I do think they are the 4 of the 6 most talented teams, but it's very likely that one of them will fall apart and have a very disappointing 80-win season.
Okay, Nick, you see 80% of that division making the postseason?
It's wild, but looking at what happened last year, you had 3 90-win teams in the same division. I think when you look at the bottom of the barrel of the American League, including the Orioles, who all these teams are going to see as 18 or 19 times in the course of the season, I think they're going to beat up on a lot of those teams. You look at these offenses, and obviously the Rays, it's a lineup that maybe you would question, any given year on any other team, but it's the Rays. They know how to win ball games. They know how to construct a roster better than anybody, pretty much. But yeah, I agree with Erik. It's the White Sox coming out of the Central. We think it's going to be the Astros coming out of the West, unless you're talking to Steve. But then again, Seattle is going to be that team that's going to be nipping at the bottom team's heels when we're talking about the Red Sox, Jays, Rays, and Yankees. In the wild card. I think the Twins also are kind of a long shot, but that being the case, Erik's right that something could go wrong with one of these teams or a couple of these teams, but something could go wrong with the Twins and the Mariners as well. So I still think, the Twins and Mariners, but I still think that it's going to be these 4 teams coming out of it, with the Mariners maybe making one team sweat.
I mean, you mentioned the teams that just absolutely crushed it in the win column last year. Nick, which team do you see going over their win total this season?
Yeah, when we look at the Blue Jays and the Yankees, they're a little bit higher. They're over 90 on theirs. And I know the Rays, to get the over, they have to hit 90 wins. But I think asking the Rays to do that on any given year, over these past few years, I have no problem backing them for that. And I think the Red Sox, too, at 85.5, the lowest of the 4 potential playoff teams in this division. I like that one a lot as well. I understand the concern with Chris Sale, but you didn't have him a lot last year either. You added Trevor Story, and I understand the concerns about him and, moving from Colorado to Fenway, but as much as Colorado's one of the easier parks to hit in, Fenway also has revived right-handed hitters' careers. I remember with Mike Lowell, it was huge for him at first. Also a former third baseman for the Red Sox. You have the rest of these ballparks too. A lot of easy ballparks to hit in when you're looking at Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards as well. So I do think that the Red Sox are going to hit. So I think if you're looking for 2, the Red Sox and the Rays are the overs to take in this division.
Yeah, Erik. Last year odds makers definitely underselling or had very low expectation for the Red Sox, which they clearly exceeded.
Yeah, I think they're a fine bet, mostly because they are the lowest here. I think I might say they deserve to be the lowest, but not by much. I think they're okay. But my favorite here is the Rays over 89.5, even though they're the only one of the teams that the projected standings at both Fangraphs and Baseball Prospectus pretty conclusively are saying should go under here. And I know I refer to those projections a lot and generally trust them, but I'm willing to bet that the Rays are that mythical projection beater because of the depth and flatness of their roster. With other teams, if they lose a star, they're losing 4 or 5 wins. But the Rays, for one, they don't have quite as many of those truly elite star players. They don't have as many wins to lose from any given injury, and their replacements are better. So they could lose a guy and maybe only lose 2 wins, whereas if the Yankees lose one of their best players, they're losing 4 or 5. With that deep roster, it also means that the guys who play above their projections this season, they'll get more playing time. The guys who play below their projections, they'll fall out down the depth chart. So those projections are really looking at median seasons for everyone and giving everybody a median amount of playing time, but that's not actually what happens in real life. And I think that's why the Rays are consistently able to win 90 wins. They won 90 for 4 straight years if you prorate their 2020 record. And I think there's no reason to bet against them getting 90 again here.
Nick, it's never too early for predictions, so go ahead and tell me who's winning this division.
Yeah, I know the Jays are the favorite, and that can be the chalkier play here. But I mean, we're just worried about winning right now. We're not worried. It's not DFS or anything like that. So chalk doesn't necessarily matter. And still plus odds. I still like the Jays. They add Kevin Gossman in the offseason. You get a full year of Jose Berrios, and then you have Chapman as well as additions. But if you're looking for a higher value, I do think the Rays are the better way to go in terms of Rays, Yankees, Red Sox outside of the favorite at plus 320. Of course, Erik highlighted a lot about how good the Rays have been over the past few years and talking about their roster and everything. So I do think the Jays are the way I want to go. But if you want to go for a little bit more of a payout potential, the Rays are the pick here.
Okay, Erik, you look at it the same?
Yeah, I agree. I think with pretty much everything Nick said there. I think it's the Jays or the Rays for me as the most interesting. I think if we were ignoring the odds, I might slightly give the edge to the Jays just because I think they have the highest upside in that division. Tons of youth in Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Alek Manoah on the pitching side, and I love Alejandro Kirk too. I think he could be in line for a breakout season. I think if you're talking about the team in this division that might go win 105 or 108, I think they have the best shot at it. But again, the Rays, they just always get it done, and the downside there is so low. I think with that depth of the roster that I was talking about, I think they're the steady option. And if you're looking at the odds, their odds are much better than the Jays, or at least enough better that I think that makes them the best bet, even if I would slightly prefer the Jays, all else being equal.
Yeah, and as you guys have laid out like multiple times in this segment, like this should be a great race in the division. Like, it should be an awesome division to watch all season long. But let's take it one step further right now. You can bet on division trifectas. So we know who you like to win the division, as you just mentioned. But give me your second and third place teams for your AL East trifecta bet, Erik.
So I think you have to go with the one that puts the Yankees fourth, even though I think that they may have the best roster if this were a video game where you could turn injuries off, but they have the highest bust potential, I think, pretty easily. Tons of injury proneness in that roster with Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson, Aaron Judge, and tons of guys who could just get old with Donaldson again, Anthony Rizzo, DJ LeMahieu, Aroldis Chapman, all of them. If they were just significantly worse this season because of their age, I don't think it would surprise people. There's so many ways things could go wrong. And if you look at just, say, a Garrett Cole injury, I think hurts that team much more than anybody else's ace going down. So I think even though they're a very talented team, they're the ones who have the most paths to finishing in fourth. So I would go them fourth, Red Sox third, and Rays or Jays in either order, depending on which odds you like more. I guess ignoring the odds, I would go slightly Jays in advance of the Rays, but I think either one would be the way I'd be happy to go here.
I mean, Nick, he's got a point here with like injury concerns with the Yankees. Let's also think here too with the lineup. Could be without 60% of its production here whenever it plays in Toronto because of the whole vaccination thing.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I'm with Erik on this one though. The Yankees are the number 14 for me in the division right now. I think I go Jays, Rays, Red Sox. If you're talking about a trifecta bet, I just think when you look at the Rays and what they do year in and year out, you have to respect that their level of consistency and how they approach building the roster and approaching the regular season. The Jays have the most potential, I think, offensively. Their pitching staff has been bolstered too, and I think the Red Sox. Look, they could be the surprise team again this year. I still think they're going to make the postseason, but I just don't think right now when you look at these two the two teams I have ahead of them going into the year, you can say that, yeah, the Red Sox are definitely right there at that same exact level. And then with the Yankees, yeah, I mean, Erik highlighted it perfectly. I mean, bust potential, not really proven in a lot of ways, the roster and everything in terms of, getting to the postseason and having, success there and everything like that. So I have no problem putting the Yankees as the number 4 team in the division going into the season.